So good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Narina McKeegan, and I have the honor of serving as the Chair Assistant Vice President of the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, also commonly known as LARC, which represents all 19 community colleges across LA County. Today's AI professional development session, Use Your Words to Get What You Want, is a collaborative effort made possible through our partnership with LA County Office of Education and our amazing faculty across the LA region. We're also incredibly grateful for the coordination and vision of the LARC AI Task Force, whose work on delivering AI opportunities to the region will continue with training opportunities for all of you well into 2026. Leading today's session is none other than Vincent Caleb, Associate Professor at Long Beach City College and AI strategist, and my amazing thought partner in everything, which I'm grateful for. His vision is to redefine what equitable, future-ready education looks like in the age of artificial intelligence. And he's here today to help show you how to use your words to get what you want. At this time, I'll turn it over to him to begin today's training session, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Makishan, for that intro. Hello, everybody. Welcome today to today's professional development session. I will try my best to um, synthesize this down to our time frame, but I would like to point out that this is typically usually a 3-hour lecture, believe it or not. So I will try to squeeze it into a 45-minute time slot. Okay, so you might see me skip a couple slides, maybe. Let me go ahead and open up my presentation from my end here. It's great to see you all. I worked with Lark and specifically Judy Fox to get the flyer to you. So you may have seen this flyer. So I hope you're in the right place. And when we were putting this flyer together, we titled it Use Your Words to Get What You Want, which almost sounded kind of weird. You're like, oh, wait a minute, is this an AI professional development thing? And as Judy and I kind of were talking about it, I used to remember when I was a kid, my parents would tell me, use your words, right, to get what I wanted. And so a lot of times when you're dealing with these AI systems, and they're built a lot like the way humans are actually. And so in order to get an effective output, you make sure you have to utilize, specific words, explicit words that really help you get, an effective output. So in thinking about that, as we use AI a lot more, that's something I want you to think about throughout this presentation. I want you to think about some use cases as we go through some examples, okay? I will take a little 5-minute break here and there to make sure I can take a look at the chat every now and again. But please, by all means, feel free to utilize the Zoom chat to type in any questions that you may have, and I'll try my best to address those during our little breaks or at the very end. So again, welcome. The agenda for today looks something like this. Let me minimize this down here on my screen. I have a lot of stuff going on here. Okay, so today, understanding what prompting is and why it matters, learning strategies and techniques that work across most LLMs or large language models, mastering frameworks to structure prompts for best results. We'll take a look at what AI output auditing looks like, and then maybe we'll do a little demonstration if we have some time. Okay? So I hope that's okay. I think it's important to talk about generative AI as we start, and to define that for everybody here. Generative AI refers to artificial intelligence systems that can create new content, text, images, audio, video, code based on patterns that they've learned from large data sets. Unlike traditional AI, which focuses on classification or prediction, generative AI produces original outputs that can mimic human creativity and problem solving. Generative AI is like smart. It's like a smart collaborator. It doesn't just find information; it creates something new with it. So, how does generative AI work? We'll get down to a point on why I'm explaining all of this in the very beginning. Generative AI actually is developed using machine learning and deep neural networks. It's trained with extensive data sets comprising text codes and images and more. It identifies patterns, structures, and connections among various data points and utilizes these insights to create new responses tailored to your input. Now you can see this little chart that I've created for you here looks almost like a cycle because it pretty much is. Um, there's a lot of iteration that goes into prompting and utilizing these kind of generative AI systems. And so as you get down to the step of utilizing the insights to create new responses, the model that you're utilizing actually learns from you and from your prompts. So a lot of times what you're going to find a little bit later on after you're utilizing a large language model like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, it would actually learn from how you communicated with it. So I think that communicating with it more, communicating with it in a better way, really improves the output that produces. Um, oh, wait, why did we go back here? Okay. Now that we've defined generative AI, let's look at the main types of models that are shaping the landscape right now. This table right here that you're looking at breaks them down by type, their purpose, some current examples you might hear about in 2025, and what they can generate. First, we have LLMs, or large language models. These are text-based systems, tools like ChatGPT from OpenAI, Gemini from Google, Claude 3.5 from Anthropic, and Llama 3 from Meta. Their purpose is to understand and generate human-like text. This is where you get essays, reports, summaries, lesson plans, or even full conversations, essentially anything in written form. And I think most people that are participating today, most people that utilize AI today are probably more familiar with the LLMs or those large language models. Um, have you utilized or considered any image generation models? These take a prompt and turn it into a visual. You might have seen things like DALL-E 3, Midjourney, Adobe Firefly, or Stable Diffusion in action. They can create everything from artwork and diagrams to marketing materials and infographics. These are great for visualizing ideas or concepts you can't easily find an image for. Then we have audio and speech models. These tools like Eleven Labs, Volley, or OpenAI's text-to-speech can generate or process voice and sound. They're used for creating narration, voiceovers, or even audiobooks, and they're becoming increasingly lifelike in tone and expression. I got to tell you, these audio and speech models are becoming very, very good, and they're only improving over time. Moving into video generation models, we see tools like Sora from OpenAI, Runway Gen 2, and Pika Labs, and these can create moving visuals directly from prompts, like things like animated explainers, short films, or social media video context. This area is advancing quickly and it's blurring the line between filmmaking and prompting. Another big category is code generation models. These help write or debug code. Examples include GitHub, Copilot, Replit, Ghostwriter, and Tab9. They can produce anything from websites to automation scripts, making coding more accessible even for those with minimal programming experience. As a matter of fact, Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, stated that in one of his keynote addresses, stated that English is the new programming language, which I'm not sure if it's fully taken over yet, but a lot of these models have become very good at generating code. So something to think about. And finally, we have what is called multimodal models. These are some of the most powerful because they can process multiple types of input at once, like text, images, and even audio. GPT-5 with Vision, Gemini 2.0, and Claude with Vision can, for example, analyze a chart, describe an image, or answer questions using both text and visuals together. This allows for a more dynamic, integrated use of AI in problem solving. Across all of these types, one thing is constant. The quality of your results depend on the quality of your prompts. Knowing which model to use and how to communicate with it is the foundation of effective AI use, which is exactly what we're here to learn today. So why prompting matters across these models? Here's the big question. Regardless of which type of generative AI model you're working with, whether it's a text-based chatbot, an image generator, a video tool, or even a multimodal system, why does prompting matter so much? Think of your prompt as the instruction manual for the AI. Without clear instructions, even the most advanced AI can give you something irrelevant or completely off the mark. Let's start with relevance. If you ask vaguely, can you really expect the AI to give you exactly what you need? Or will it fill in the blanks with its own best guess? Sometimes right, sometimes far from it. A strong prompt puts you in control of the direction. Then there's quality. We've all seen answers that sound confident but fall apart under closer inspection. Is your prompt structured in a way that helps the AI give you not just any answer, but an accurate, clear, and useful one? How about efficiency? How many of us have gone back and forth with AI rephrasing over and over just to get to the point? A precise, well-constructed prompt saves you time by getting you closer to your goal in fewer steps. And finally, creativity. Have you ever had the AI surprise you with an idea you never considered? just because you ask it in a way that encourages exploration. The right prompt can unlock possibilities you didn't even know to ask for. So here's something to think about. When you sit down to work with AI, are you just typing a request or are you giving it a blueprint? Because in this game, your words aren't just input, they're the keys to relevance, quality, efficiency, and creativity, no matter which model you use. Where do you see prompting manifest itself? When you think about prompting, it's not just a technical skill for tech people, it's actually becoming a life skill. It's showing up in the classroom, in the workplace, and even in how we manage our personal lives. In education, prompting can save hours and open creative possibilities. Imagine building lesson plans in minutes, designing an assessment that's differentiated for different learning levels, or summarizing dense content so students can grasp it quickly. It's like having a teaching assistant on demand. In the workplace, the same skill can sharpen your efficiency, drafting professional communications, analyzing data without drowning in spreadsheets, automating the tasks that eat up your day, and brainstorming ideas when you hit a creative wall. And how about in your personal lives? Has anybody used it there? Prompting can help us plan a trip with all the details sorted, craft a resume that lands interviews, generate stories, music, or art, and even guide us through learning a new skill we've always wanted to try. So here's the point. Whether you're teaching, working, or just living your everyday life, the ability to give clear strategic instructions to AI isn't just helpful, it's becoming essential. Let me go ahead and just pause here for a moment. I know my students in class sometimes are like, Professor Callop, you're talking way too fast. But I'm trying to fit everything in right now, so you're able to keep up and you can hear my voice clearly. I'm just looking through the chat here. Yeah, Karen says I can barely keep up with ChatGPT. ChatGPT right now, in its newest iteration, is now in GPT-5. If you've been keeping up, and so mind you, we're in year 2025, and from 2022, we started with 3.5, and now we're in 5 already. So it's evolving very quickly, right? Evangelina writes, this is helpful. Thank you. Will this chart be shared? Yes, the presentation, PowerPoint slide deck will be shared out as well after the presentation. Lulu says that last chart of the various programs is so insightful. Yes, thank you so much for your comments. I will try my best to share it with Kevin and Dr. McKeegan so they can share that out with everybody as well. Okay, thank you. Let's take a look at some sample prompt inputs and some probable outputs. Let's just say, for example, you're a person in high school and you're in a biology class and you're coming across a concept that, quite frankly, is a little bit difficult to grasp. So you turn to AI, which is what a lot of our students are doing these days, right? If you're a student in this presentation, this might resonate with you. If you're an educator or a person who works at an educational institution, this also may resonate with you because some of your students probably share this example with you. And so what does that look like? Well, they might go to the interface of OpenAI's ChatGPT, which you're seeing on your screen right now, and type in something like explain photosynthesis, right? Let's take a look at that example. They're turning to OpenAI ChatGPT for some homework help. Now, this right here is just an example of one particular prompt, right? Now, most AI models will do their best here, but without more information, you're likely to get something like this. Photosynthesis is the process by which green plants and some other organisms use sunlight to synthesize foods from carbon dioxide and water. It generally involves the green pigment chlorophyll and generates oxygen as a byproduct. Is that correct? Yeah, sure. Is it helpful? Well, maybe. If the student is already confident in science vocabulary, but for a ninth grader student who's struggling, it's probably just more words to memorize. And so I would consider this kind of a weak prompt, right? Let's go ahead and bump that up a couple notches. Let's compare it to a stronger one. What happens if I wrote down, act as a high school biology tutor, explain photosynthesis in simple terms for a ninth grade student who struggles with science, use a step-by-step approach, and include a real-world analogy? The output here might sound something a little more like this. Let's break this down. First, plants have a green pigment called chlorophyll that captures sunlight. Then they use that sunlight plus water from soil and carbon dioxide from the air to make glucose. That's their food. Oxygen is released as a waste byproduct, and they even provide an analogy here that you probably can't see on the screen, but I'll read it for you anyways. Think of it like a solar-powered kitchen. The sunlight is the electricity, water is the ingredient, and the plant makes its own food inside while giving off oxygen for us to breathe. Same topic, but now it's step by step, simpler and connected to something relatable, a kitchen. The difference: the weak prompt gives no audience context, no complexity level, and no format guidance. The strong prompt assigns a role, defines the audience, sets a tone, and even requests an analogy to make it stick. And I recommend my students do this all the time to kind of prompt or even write in their prompt, create an analogy that maybe may resonate with a particular ninth grade student in this particular case, right? So something to think about. Excuse me. Let's take a look at another prompt here. Have you used ChatGPT to, I say ChatGPT, but it could be Google Gemini or Claude. But have you used a large language model to help you write a resume? You may have written in a generative AI tool or model, help me write a resume. And here the likely output is a generic fill in the blank template with headings like objectives, skills, and experience. It's fine if you just need a blank form. It's not targeted to your goal or industry. So something to think about with this prompt right here. Let me go ahead and let's improve that just a tad bit. What happens if I wrote down act as a career advisor, create a one-page resume for a college senior applying to a digital marketing internship, highlight coursework in social media marketing, and 2 part-time jobs in customer service? Excuse me. Use a modern professional format. The output now reads like this. Objective: marketing student with hands-on customer service experience seeking to apply social media skills in a fast-paced internship, relevant coursework, social media strategy, digital advertising, so on and so forth. So you can see it's a lot more succinct here. And surprisingly enough, there's a lot more career advising firms and even the career advising department at most institutions are actually utilizing or turning to large language models to actually help kind of construct or customize resumes. And so you'll see that a lot in there. In this particular case, in this particular example, the strong prompt includes a specific role, career stage, and target job he experiences and format. The weak prompt fails because it gives no role, no job target, and no relevant experiences. So put yourself in this situation. You've just finished writing a 500-word essay on climate change. You put in the research, you stayed up late polishing it, and now you want to use AI to help make it better before you turn it in. You open up your favorite AI tool and it's waiting for your instructions, but here's the question. What did you actually type? Do you want the AI to completely rewrite your essay for you, changing your voice and making it sound like someone else wrote it? Or would you rather it give you helpful suggestions so you can make the improvements yourself and still keep it your work? How much detail would you give it? Would you just say, fix this essay and hope for the best? Or would you be more specific about the type of feedback you want, like how many suggestions, what areas to focus on, and what not to touch? Take a second to think about the exact words you use if you wanted the AI to help strengthen your work without taking over. I want you to go ahead and type into the chat a prompt that maybe you would have used in this particular case. Again, I'll repeat the scenario. You're writing a 500-word essay on climate change. You put in the research, you polished it, and then you want to use AI to help make it better before you turn it in. What type of prompt would you use? And again, no judgment zone here. This is merely just, we're just kind of playing around with it to see kind of what you would come up with. So let me go ahead and open the chat and we'll turn to that. So go ahead, take a moment and type into the chat what you would type, how you would prompt a large language model like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini to kind of help you in this essay. Yeah, Karen writes, sometimes I ask AI what is a good prompt for a good prompt. Yeah, don't judge. Yeah, I agree. Evangelina writes, provide suggestions in areas that my paper can be improved. I love that. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Michael writes, please evaluate this essay and correct any grammar mistakes. Please make sure the essay is written in the active voice. Please take a look at the chat. You might get some suggestions from some of your colleagues here. Satali writes, sometimes I ask for clarity if what I am saying makes sense in my essay or transitions. Ashley writes, I've also asked AI to put suggestions in bold. Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Yeah, please, by all means, keep typing into the chat there. some suggestions here. Lulu writes, for the scenario, I'm a third year college student who is a public health major with writing about climate change. Please revise and provide grammatical feedback on my essay regarding climate change. Give feedback from the lens a bio professor on how I can enhance or elaborate my essay. That's great. Yeah. As you can see here, she's included her role. She's included some context, some things to think about right here too as well. Yeah, I agree with you, Karen. Karen says AI sometimes is too accommodating, too nice to correct us. Yeah. Please, by all means, please continue to do that. I've written an example here for you all, and my example is very similar to that of Lulu's. So thank you, Lulu, for that very comprehensive prompt there. I can tell that you've been prompting for quite some time, so good on you. The prompt that I've created for this is act as a writing tutor. Read the 500-word essay on climate change and give supportive feedback. Focus on clarity and argument strength, but do not rewrite the essay. Just give 3 specific suggestions for improvements. Now take a look at the language that I've used here and take a look at the output that it would have created. Now you can see here in the output, it created 3 bullet points here in numbered format. Clarify your thesis in the introduction so the reader knows your stance from the start. Number 2, in paragraph 3, add evidence from a credible source to support your claim. And number 3, strengthen the conclusion by summarizing key points instead of introducing new ideas. Now you'll see here in the output, there's parts that I probably didn't even consider. For example, in paragraph 3, I didn't even think to add a credible source to support my claim, right? So a lot of times, depending on how you prompt the large language model, the output could be very succinct or probably give you some really good suggestions. So let's go ahead and break down the prompt, or at least talk about the anatomy of the prompt. Here are some key components of effective prompts. Let's use our most recent example. Have you considered, and I think that some of the examples that you typed into the chat actually kind of highlighted some of these or capitalized on some of these characteristics. Have you considered a role? I think this is becoming a regular practice nowadays in a lot of prompting. Assigning a role tells the AI which perspective, tone, and expertise to adopt. When you say writing tutor, you're telling it to think like someone who teaches writing, not like a scientist, editor, or journalist, right? What about context, right? In context gives the AI background, so its feedback is targeted. Here, the topic and length give it boundaries. The AI knows what it's looking at and the scope of its task. In our particular prompt here, we wrote, read this 500-word essay on climate change. The task is the main action you want the AI to perform. By saying supportive feedback, you're steering it toward constructive, encouraging comments instead of harsh critique or rewriting. And so in our prompt, we wrote down, give supportive feedback here for the task. Adding a focus tells the AI where to spend most of its effort. This avoids scattershot feedback on unrelated aspects like grammar, formatting, or word choice. And in our particular prompt, we wrote down focus on clarity and argument strength. What about constraints? Constraints, also known as guardrails or boundaries, control the scope and prevent overstepping. By saying do not rewrite and 3 specific suggestions, you protect the student's voice and keep the feedback manageable. So things to think about, characteristics to think about as you're constructing your own prompts. Have you thought about a role, context, task, focus, and constraints? These particular characteristics really will create these kind of effective prompts here, right? Now, there are other components that are not necessarily in our particular prompt that I would like to touch on just really quickly. And some things to think about too as well. Have you thought about tone or style guidance? This explicitly stated the voice, formality, or emotional tone that you want. For example, using a friendly, encouraging tone or write in a professional academic style. This helps align the output with the intended audience and purpose. Without tone instructions, AI may default to a neutral or mismatched style. In our example, the tone is implied by supportive feedback, but not explicitly defined. We could make it clearer by saying in a friendly, encouraging, constructive tone. And a lot of times when I'm writing my prompts these days, I may include language like format this in a student-centered voice, right? Simplify, do not use complex terms or terminology or words that, a freshman college level student may not understand. And so, again, that tone or style guidance may help. What about formatting instructions? Telling the AI how to structure or present the output. For example, provide your answer in bullet points, format as a table with columns for suggestions and rationale. I will say, since the beginning of LLM to now, a lot of models, a lot of multimodal models can now produce output in the form of tables, in the form of bullet points, numbered lists, so on and so forth. So make sure you're including that into your prompt right here. This is especially important in educational or workplace settings where output needs to be scannable or ready to use, right? We hint at format by saying three specific suggestions, but we don't tell it whether to present them as bullet points, number lists, or paragraphs. And so we say just give three specific suggestions for improvements. I like to be very specific here in the formatting instructions, but nowadays a lot of multimodal models will automatically default to maybe a numbered or bulleted list. You might have to refine that or create another iteration. Reference or data requirements, specifying whether and how the AI should cite or reference sources. For example, include at least one APA-style citation for each major claim. In academic and research context, unreferenced claims may be unusable. In our particular example, we don't require references, which might be fine for feedback, but in research or lesson planning prompts, this becomes critical. So again, including a component of your prompt that aligns with a particular style of writing and or a reference or data requirement. Something to think about there. Have you thought about including some examples, giving the AI a model example of the desired output? For example, here's an example of the kind of feedback I want. Now apply that style to my essay. Few-shot prompting and pattern matching allow the AI to learn from your sample and mimic structure more accurately. We could show it one good feedback example so it mirrors our preferred style. And again, a lot of the models now, you can upload a particular document depending on the model that you subscribe to. Most models will allow you to upload a PDF or a Microsoft Word document to provide some sort of example, and it can utilize that to kind of learn and train as you're creating some effective outputs too as well. One thing you're going to find as you're prompting most LLMs, you're going to find a lot of iterative multi-step instructions. This is directing the AI to break the task into steps or to check its own work before finalizing. For example, I could write something like, first summarize the essay, then give three suggestions. Finally, ask me if I'd like more detail on any point. This could be a conversation that I could have too as well, right? So multi-step prompts often produce more thorough, higher quality answers by forcing the model to think in stages. In our example, we use single-step requests. We could improve it by asking for a quick essay summary before providing suggestions to verify understanding. The 5 core components in your essay example are a strong foundation, but for complex tasks, adding tone, format, references, examples, and step-by-step instructions, these can significantly enhance quality, reduce ambiguity, and make the output more aligned with your needs. Let's take a look at some strategies and techniques. Now that we've broken down what makes a good prompt, I want to take you a step further. Think of prompting strategies as the mindset you use before even typing a single word. These are the ways you approach the AI's brain, how you frame the problem, and the context that you give, and how you guide the model to think and respond. The 4 strategies we're about to explore, you may have heard of some of these: zero shot, few shot, chain of thought, and react are like different gears on a bicycle. The terrain changes depending on your task, and the right gear makes the ride easier, smoother, and faster. Let's take a look at some of these strategies. Now you're seeing them here. I'm not sure if you're seeing them here for the first time, but these have become kind of known strategies and techniques as it becomes to as it relates to prompt engineering. And so you may see this again somewhere else. Let's go to break them down really quickly. Zero-shot prompting asks the AI to complete a task without providing any examples or demonstrations. The AI relies entirely on its pre-trained knowledge. Why this works? Well, it's useful when the task is straightforward and you don't need a specific style or example. It saves time, you go straight to the requests, and in many use cases, you might see this in quick definitions or summaries, factual answers, and initial brainstorming ideas. For example, I could write, summarize the book To Kill a Mockingbird in 200 words, focusing on its themes of justice and empathy. The likely output is probably a concise, neutral summary covering the plot, major themes, and moral lessons, which I think zero-shot prompting by default is a lot of ways kind of what we're doing already without actually defining it or putting language to that. So zero-shot prompting is just that, just kind of direct, kind of quick definitions of summaries. Few-shot prompting is another strategy. This right here is providing the AI with a few examples before asking it to perform the same task. This teaches the AI the format, tone, and style you want. It works because AI learns from patterns you provide, increases consistency in tone and structure. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier in this workshop that uh, uh, the AI model, learns as you go. And so you imagine an individual that has been using OpenAI ChatGPT since 2022. It has a very good understanding of kind of their writing style, so on and so forth. So I think it's important that we start including the skill of utilizing these tools a lot more as kind of these collaborators, right, or thought partners. In few-shot prompting, some use cases you might see this pop up is maintaining consistent grading style, creative writing prompts in a specific voice, and customer service replies with a brand tone. And as an example, for maybe an educator, you might provide some examples here. And as you can see here, my prompt here are two examples of supportive feedback for student essays. And so maybe I might be evaluating essays, kind of they're coming to me, and I actually want to utilize this tool to kind of help me evaluate it, kind of as a partner in this. And so I'll provide some examples of what my voice sounds like as I'm evaluating it. Some likely output could be three pieces of feedback, matching the styles of the examples, specific positive and constructive criticisms. There is another strategy called chain of thought. This is probably one of the more popular ones. This is instructing the AI to think step by step before giving the final answer. This helps with reasoning and complex problem solving. It reduces mistakes in logical calculations and lets you verify the thinking process, not just the answer. And I use chain of thought prompting a lot just because I want to see kind of what the logic or the reasoning that the model was using or doing at that time. And so I'll prompt it in such a way. In many use cases, you might see these in math problems and statistics, lesson planning with multiple requirements, and analyzing complex case studies. An example prompt might look something like this. Solve this math problem step by step. A train travels 120 miles at 60 miles per hour. How long does the journey take? And the output might look something like this. I got to tell you, something that you may or may not know about me is I'm terrible at math. But and so did you imagine a student that is struggling with math, right? Or if you are a student in this class struggling with math, you could potentially prompt this engine to kind of figure out kind of a logical flow that makes sense to you, right? That you can understand. Excuse me. And here you see kind of this breakdown, right? I think you remember from all your math classes that our math teachers will always say, show your math, right? And so here is kind of this output based on this kind of chain of thought prompting strategy. React prompting. This is combining reasoning with external actions like searching, calculating, or checking additional data before responding. In some AI tools, this involves integrations or plugins. This works because it keeps the answers up to date, blends decision making with action taking. In many use cases, you'll see this in market research, real-time policy updates, and project planning with current data. For example, I could write down something like research the most recent California community college transfer rates to CSU campuses, explaining trends, and draft a short briefing I could present to faculty. Now, I will say probably in the earlier stages of the large language models, React was a known strategy. But now tools like ChatGPT, for example, have web research features and capabilities. Know that the models that you're using, the large language models that you're using, Claude, ChatGPT, or what have you, are trained up to a certain year of training data. And so they're continuously training these large language models. So simply asking a AI model, about some information, it may not have the most relevant or recent data. And so including that as part of your prompt and or utilizing the feature of most large language models like web research may help give you more relevant or more recent data. So again, looking at those different strategies and techniques, zero shot is your quick, Get it done gear. Few shot is about teaching the AI your style. Chain of thought ensures it shows it's quick and react. When available, pulls in the outside world to inform your answer. Let me go ahead and pause there for a moment and go back to the chat to see if there's any pressing questions here. Yeah, Brandy, I love that. My go-to is a warm and healing center tone. Yeah, and again, Brandy, that's a really good point. I'm saying because it really depends on the audience, right, that you're creating this content for. Who's reading this? Really, I think that, when you're creating effective prompts, really thinking backwards almost, thinking of your output. Where does this document or where is this language going to live? Is this going to be in an email? Is it going to be in some sort of document somewhere? And who's reading that? So if you think about that, I'm saying that could potentially kind of drive your prompts too as well, right? Yeah, Lulu, you're absolutely right. You have to format the generator more elaboratively. Yeah, very good point. Satali writes down, sometimes adding the resources we use in an essay can also help AI understand what our research is. Very good strategy. Thank you for sharing. Let's take a look at some prompting frameworks. And there's a lot, there's probably about eight that I wanted to show you today. But let me take a look at the time here to make sure we have, okay. I think we're good so far. I'm trying to be mindful of the time here. Um, okay, so by now you've seen how strategies like zero shot and chain of thought shape the AI's thinking, but strategies are just the mindset. The frameworks we're about to explore are the blueprints for building your prompt. Think of them like recipes. They tell you what ingredients to add in what order, so you end up with a consistent, high quality dish every time. We're going to cover 8 proven A frameworks that work across education, the workplace, and even personal projects. For each one, I'll define it, explain why it works, walk you through a scenario, and then challenge you to build a prompt yourself. Here's a scenario. You're a student who needs a concise study guide for an upcoming exam on US history. How would you tell the AI to create a study guide that's easy for you to read and review in 15 minutes? There's a framework called RTF, or Role Task Format. You assign a role, you state the task, and you define the output format. The role gives the AI perspective, the task directs the action, and format keeps responses structured, making them easier to use. Breaking this down, I could write something like act as a history tutor, summarize key events of the American Civil War, in a bulleted list with brief explanations. And so, yeah, as you can see here, kind of in my prompt, I'm using kind of this RTF framework that's producing this type of output. In many use cases, again, study guides, quick reference checklists, step-by-step instructions. You may be using this at work. If you're a student in today's workshop, you may be using this maybe as to create a study guide, right? Or quick reference checklist. How about if you're an educator creating a parent newsletter about digital safety? What would you ask the AI to so the newsletter is informative but also encourages parents to act? There's a framework called TAG or TAG, topic, action, goal. This right here helps clarify the subject matter while keeping the AI focused on your end objective. The topic here could be online safety for middle school students. The action could be write an article, and the goal could be increase parent awareness and offer practical tips. In a completed prompt, you might see it looks something like this. And then here's your sample output. In many use cases, you might see this in awareness campaigns, instructional content, or advocacy messages. And I will share a chart with all these frameworks, by the way, and strategies too as well. If it's okay, Kevin, I could share that with you or Dr. McKeegan, and you can share that out with everybody that participated today as well. Excuse me. How about your student council leader proposing a recycling program at your college? How would you get the AI to help you write a persuasive pitch for your program? Another framework you might see is BAB, or before after bridge. This shows the current state before, the improved future after, and the steps to get there, which is the bridge. This is powerful for persuasion. It helps the AI structure arguments or pitches logically. The before here could be campus waste is not being sorted, recyclable items that end up in landfills. The after could be a cleaner campus with an effective recycling system. And the bridge could be outline a plan to introduce labeled bins and awareness campaigns. In a completed prompt, it may look something like this, and your sample output may look something like this. And so you'll notice here in this particular prompt, I actually utilize this framework by actually writing down the before after bridge framework here. by saying, write a persuasive proposal using the before after bridge framework to advocate for a campus recycling program, including the problem, the ideal future, and the steps to get you there. What if you're a team lead providing feedback on project proposals to junior employees? If you wanted the AI to give you project feedback in the exact same professional yet supportive tone every time, what would you say? There's a framework called CARE, and this is probably one of the more popular ones actually. Context, action, result, and example. And this right here provides background context, it specifies the action, it states the desired result, and includes an example for clarity. This is ideal for ensuring AI delivering consistent, on-brand, and replicable outputs, especially when tone and structure must match organizational standards. And here you can see the different kind of the breakdown of the prompt and these different kind of components, the context, action, result, and example. In a completed prompt, it might look something like this. You're reviewing internal project proposals from junior employees. Give constructive and actionable feedback so employees feel encouraged to refine their proposals and confident about their next steps. Follow this example. Excellent clarity in your objectives section. To strengthen your proposal, you could add more detail about the budget allocation in section 3. And again, the output's probably a lot longer than this, but I wanted to provide a small little example of what output may potentially look like in this particular case. Use cases for a CARE framework might be consistent manager feedback on reports or proposals, peer review in collaborative work environments, and onboarding tools for training new staff and on quality standards. I want to go ahead and skip over a couple frameworks here, but again, I'll share these out with you as well. You can probably quickly see these just because I want to make sure that we can get to some really cool stuff in this presentation. And here you're seeing a RISE framework. Let me just go back here because I think this is a really good one. You're running Excel and want to know how to create a pivot table. One of the courses I teach at Long Beach City College is Microsoft Excel, actually. And one of the things that I empower my students to do is actually utilize a framework like this. I think pivot table, if you've ever heard pivot table before, is probably one of the most sought after skills in Microsoft Excel, yet no one really truly understands it. But what happens if you utilize an AI tool to kind of help you break it down and you use a RISE framework in this particular case? And you can see kind of how I broke it down here and kind of what the prompt actually looked like and what its output looked like. As you can see here, it could create kind of these technical tutorials. It could provide some skill training and maybe even kind of decipher some complex workflows. So some things to think about with some of these types of frameworks and kind of how to use them. I hope that's helpful, by the way. You're writing a discussion board post for class. What would you tell the AI so that your post sounds credible and clear? In this particular framework, it's called RACE, Restate, Answer, Cite, and Explain. You're probably seeing a lot of commonalities here, some common things here, and we'll talk about those those common things in a few minutes. Restate the discussion prompt, give a direct, concise response, include at least one scholarly source, and explain your reasoning. In a completed prompt, it might look something like this. And now you take a look at the sample output here. Well, restated prompt answers, cites, API sources, and explains this clearly. Use cases again here will be academic writing, debate preparation, and professional reports. And so I know I skipped over a couple, but again, I'll provide this kind of chart for you. But it's kind of a different way of kind of framing those prompts, right? Across all 8 frameworks, these 3 things stood out, right? Clarity of intent, detailed context, and iterative refinement. The main differences here lie in their purposes. Some focus on structures and precision, like RTF or CARE, others on storytelling and progression, like BAB, and some on pattern replication, like APE, ERA, RISE, or RACE. The key to optimization is choosing the framework that matches your goal and saving prompts that consistently deliver strong results. Over time, these golden prompts become a personal library. You can adapt and reuse, making you faster, clearer, and more effective with AI. I will get to the point of how I will talk a little bit about how kind of we're saving prompts these days, but I'm sure you probably seen on social media, all over the place and just on the internet in general, kind of these prompt libraries. Have you considered for your department creating a prompt library? Maybe even open up an Excel spreadsheet and saying these particular prompts produce these types of outputs for me, and they were effective. If they were effective for you in OpenAI ChatGPT, they probably could replicate similar examples in models like Google Gemini and Claude Anthropic Claude, for example. And so it may behoove you to kind of start creating kind of a repository, inventory of really effective prompts. It's something I started to incorporate in my practice probably like a year ago. Um, but um, but I've been prompting so long that I probably need the inventory piece. I probably could just type whatever I needed at that point. So something to consider, and we could talk about how to save those in a few. We talked a lot about the prompting piece, but what about looking at the outputs, right? The final step in effective prompt engineering is auditing your outputs. Even the best prompt will occasionally produce something off target without a process for evaluation. You risk passing along flawed, biased, or unclear information. I'm sure many of you have prompted some AI engines and looked at the output, thinking to yourself, where does this output come from? What's happening here? This is not even what I asked for, right? So it's always important to always audit and or look at your outputs. Auditing really is about quality control here. It ensures your AI generated output is factually accurate, aligned with your goals, and ready for real world use. Just like proofreading an important email, you don't want any surprises going out the door. Humans being critical thinking and domain experts that AI can't replicate. You might spot subtle tone mismatches, cultural nuances, or missing context that AI won't catch. This is why human in the loop remains a gold standard. Now, what I've done was kind of created kind of a rubric evaluation. Sometimes when I'm looking at something that's probably very important that I need to use, is I would like to evaluate my own output. And this is just my evaluation rubric and metric system. You can create your own depending on kind of your role at the institution, whether you're a student in a particular class, what is your professor looking for, right? What are you looking for as an instructor? What are you looking for as a support staff or administrator, right? So creating kind of the scoring rubric kind of brings consistency. For example, you could rate outputs on accuracy. Are the facts correct? Relevance. Does it fully answer the prompt? Clarity. Is it easy to understand? Tone. Is the style appropriate? And completeness. Does it leave gaps? I think that a couple of you all have mentioned in the chat already some of these key characteristics, which is already great. And if you remember at the very beginning of this presentation, I mentioned a lot of these key characteristics too as well. You might see relevance, clarity, and tone kind of pop up yet again here. And so, interestingly enough, you can also ask AI to evaluate itself. Although I probably stray away from utilizing this particular type of strategy, but it's helpful kind of in an efficient manner. For example, review the above response and rate it for accuracy, clarity, and completeness on a scale of 1 to 5. Suggest 3 improvements. This can speed up iteration, but I recommend cross-checking with human judgment for accuracy. I always like to look at things myself to make sure everything's accurate before I kind of send things off or finalize documents. But again, utilizing the tool itself to kind of review its own prompts. I think that one of the prompts that we came up in one of my classes at LVCC was evaluate all my prompts through this entire thread and create an inventory of the most effective prompts that I use that created the outputs that I pulled or liked the most. So you could potentially almost have the model kind of audit itself almost, right? Okay, let me go ahead and go here to the chat to see if there are any questions or comments. Please, by all means, leave any comments or questions in the chat as you see come up. This looks at the last slide. I do want to talk about a couple more things because I know we're coming close to time. Thank you, Lulu, for your comment there on the chart and breakdown. She writes, it reminds me of when we were in elementary school, intro, body, conclusion. Yeah. And, believe it or not, Lulu, there's a lot of students that are kind of coming into college that may either have forgot about kind of these fundamental skills in writing and or are just not familiar with them. Not to mention, across community colleges in Los Angeles, we do have some indirect matriculants, right? Or individuals that are coming to the college that have been out of high school for quite some time. And so it's helpful in those ways. So I appreciate that comment. Again, My name is Vincent Callip. I'm an associate professor at Long Beach City College, and my email is on the screen. I put my email there just in case you wanted it or needed it to reach out to me. Please, by all means, feel free to reach out to me about prompting. I do want to mention a couple internet culture shortcuts or shortcuts that I like to use in some of my prompting engines there. And I'm not sure if you use any of these or what have you, but these are very efficient ways to start to also include in your prompt. Have you seen any of these types of shortcuts? Please, by all means, throw an emoji up or give me a thumbs up or even write in the chat if you use any of these at any time in your prompt, right? These shortcuts right here, let's take a look at the very first one. I could upload an entire, yeah, thank you, Yida. Um, I could write, I could include that essay that we had earlier, for example, right? Or a long document, a long scholarly document that I need to read. But I'm on my way. I want to be efficient as possible. I could upload the document, and at the very end of my prompt, I could write down TL semicolon DR, which stands for too long didn't read. And what that does is when I hit enter, it produces the output. It produces a brief summary of long context. So I could upload an entire long document, end it with TLDR, which is typical technology kind of computer syntax, and it produces that kind of the brief summary of long context without actually writing anything. I could have you use the shortcut Eli 5 or ELI 5. Explain it to me like I'm 5. This right here simplifies complex concepts into child-friendly explanations. And there's more here too as well. You might see some that you're familiar with, like SWOT, for example. Utilizing SWOT at the very end of a prompt requests a structured SWOT analysis of a topic. JSON for all those individuals out there that are coders. This right here requests an output in a structured JSON format for coders. And a lot of people that use Excel a lot, you probably could finalize your prompt with CSV. That shortcut at the very end of your prompt will produce a output in a spreadsheet friendly CSV format. So those shortcuts might be helpful. Let me go ahead and just close the presentation down just for a moment, just so I can show you one more really quick tool for prompting. Let me go here. We talked a little bit more, we talked a little bit earlier about inventory of prompts and what does that look like. Nowadays, what you're seeing now, a typical practice in prompt engineering and or using AI models um, is keeping inventory in Excel spreadsheets and or prompt libraries, right? Um, and so a lot of times you know that you're going to be typing something here into your prompt engine. Right now, what you're looking at is ChatGPT 5, and you're seeing the little search bar here, so I could start to prompt it. But one tool that I want to leave you with is a text expander. And what text expanders do is they include a long line of text into an area, so that way you don't have to keep thinking of the same prompt over and over again. One text expander that I like that I want to point out is a text expander called BeefText. If my thing will open up here, let me just open this up here. This right here, if I can move this over. Sorry, I'm apparently working on too many screens here. Okay, let me move that over real quick. By showing hands, has anybody used BeefText before? BeefText is a text expander. And what a text expander does is it creates combos of long text. So I could say, let me see here. Let me go combo. Here's BeefText here. You can just download it. You can just Google BeefText. You can find it. I like it because it's free, by the way. So I can go combos. I can go new. I'm just showing you a quick example of how I use it. And I could write some long text here. Thank you. Oops. Very respectfully. I'm doing my signature line on my emails, for example. And I can give it a keyword here. And the name of this long text is going to be called my signature line, right? So you'll notice the key word here is a shortcut here, right? You see there, // SIG, and it'll produce this. And so that's what I wanted to do. So now I can click on OK. Oh, it's already in use. Okay, that's fine. Oh, I already made that already. So I'll click on OK and I'll just go and close that down. And so for here, for example, I can go / SIG, and you'll notice there it automatically produces the context I needed. This right here is just one example of really long prompts that you've created that are really great and really effective. You can use something like a text expander to kind of have that long prompt there and utilize a shortcut, like // long prompt, and it would have populated an entire prompt that you normally typically use almost all the time. So let me go ahead and stop share there. Sorry, I know I ran through that last part really quickly. I hope that was helpful. I wanted to give you guys a couple of tips really quick just to kind of walk away with that you can use right away. But things like those text expanders are really, really powerful. So I hope that was helpful. Thanks so much for joining and contributing and participating. Again, I didn't mean to make it sound like an auction here, auction house. But again, this is a very, very long lecture that I'm trying to condense down for you. So hopefully you can have some takeaways. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Vincent. You are an incredible resource for all of us as students, educators, and industry partners as well. This was such a fabulous learning experience. You know, with tools like this, there's always so much to it, and you broke it down in such an amazing way for us to be able to actually understand it. So thank you, thank you. And we appreciate everybody's participation. We do have a survey if you don't mind completing this feedback form for us. It truly helps us to ensure that we are addressing all of the areas that you may need as you're learning through AI and this exciting time for all of us, as well as for our trainers, our experts who are helping to facilitate these. So if you could take a few moments to respond to this survey, and the actual link is in the chat as well. But Vincent, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you, thank you. And if you want to share your PowerPoint with us, we will share it out. And also the recording will be on the LARC YouTube channel as well, with all of our other AI recordings and trainings that we have done. So have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. Have an amazing weekend. And please visit our website for additional AI resources and future training opportunities as well. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.